One of you guys had asked me about cleaning up a file, and I think that it's very important to start doing so when you've got a lot of different things going on at once. And let's start to kind of at least consider that. So I'll give you a couple of basic things. We'll get into some more advanced things later on. Um, but it's kind of important for you to understand, I think, how to display the relationships between different blocks of data. And you notice that I tend to create big groups, okay? And it's kind of different for everyone, but I tend to create really big groups and move them around and change the relationships that way in some form or fashion. I'll work in a group like this, and this would be a second group, and I'd string different groups of these, data strings along. But there are other smaller internal things that you can do as well. So let's just kind of get back to a small scale here and look at, for instance, this part of the definition. Okay. Um, you have alignment tools at your disposal. So if you've got a whole bunch of these and they're all kind of, these are all of your factors, and you pull them off to the left and you change those every now and then, and you've got a really important string of data that goes head on, and then you've got this secondary string at the bottom. Um, it's up to you to determine how to block off your data, but it is actually very important and beneficial to you and your sanity if you're aware of alignment hotkeys or these alignment buttons. Okay, so we've got distribution and center alignment, right alignment, and left alignment. So distribution vertically means that it's going to take your farthest value and on either side, and it'll just split them up in between. And that's pretty nifty, I think. Let me move that down a little bit. So if you get them kind of tight to one another like this, you can distribute them and also click on the left to align them left. Now, the one I'm not sure of is with these modifiable length ones. I don't know that there's a way to get them to all be the same length, if that's something you desire. But you can center them. So I can pull one off like this, and I can say center. Let me pull one back and see if it also changes the length. No, it doesn't. Okay, so that's one that's at your option, at your disposal, but you can also center them like this, which I actually don't like. If you've got a string, like a horizontal string like this, you can center them, but then you get into stuff like this where all of your wires are really quite messy. And in this case, it's a little bit different because I don't want this information, so I tend to just pull it up and away. But if you string these out far enough, you can change the wire display. And the wire display can be completely hidden, or you can make it really, really faint, or you can create links to other areas in the actual definition. So for me, let me see here. Do I want to just pull one up? Let me see if I have one for you real quick. Okay. No, I don't think I have it. Okay. So to change your wire display, you basically just right-click on the item. Oh, I'm sorry, the input, I think, is what you have to do it on. Yeah. So you have to do it on the input, not the output. And you hover over wire display, and here's your options. You can change it from default, which is the typical gray, black lined wire, or faint, so you can barely see it, or you can hide it entirely. And it makes this little kind of Wi-Fi sort of symbol. I will say that that is usually very confusing because you can't see where it goes. You have to select it in order to see its path. Sometimes that's fine, but what I do in that case is, and let me just use this as an example. So my cells I would usually go into params, grab a surface, name it something, grid cells, plug that in, copy it, and plug it in directly to the next one. And then I change that wire display to hidden and move that into place. See that? So we've got grid cells, we've got grid cells. I usually, when I'm setting up a file, I'll dock my input values. If I have a really kind of dense file and I've got a whole bunch of different input values, I usually dock those in the top left corner. Like this. And I'll do these all the way across for each of the values. So it'll say something like grid cells count X, grid cells count Y, grid cell size, something like that at each of the sides. And then I'll link it back over here where you can move from one side to another. Okay, so let me block this off real quick.
Where did you get those cells?
These?
Yeah. Params.
Yeah, these are just under params. So they're very generic parameters. So I often use point, curve, line, and plane, and I'll plug those in. So my vertices under points, edges under curves, faces under surfaces, and those I can use to link to other places. Something like that. So I'll copy it over, create the link, change the wire display, and then move them to another location somewhere on the page. Okay, so the other thing is if I have a block of information over here, I wish I had a better example. Let me look for it here. Not that. I'll pull one. I'll bring one in. I have one somewhere. I wonder if it's on this computer. But so if you've got different blocks like this that are sort of separated around the screen, you can actually jump from one place to another. So after I've gotten to a point where I have my data blocks in various locations, and I've got my input values docked in the top left corner, I'll sometimes create links. So if these are all of my grids, let's see, grid, yeah. I'm just going to show you the grid ones as an example. So I've got grid values, and this is a number. Change this to grid size. Count X. Copy and paste them over. Fix the links from one to another. Hide the wire display. And then these move down. And they can override. So size, X, Y. I'll move this whole thing over. And it looks like I missed one. This one was for the space frame X value, or Z value. Space frame depth, frame depth, copy and paste. So the process is actually pretty simple, and it cleans up the file just like to an unbelievable level of clarity, I think. Right. So now you don't have all these super crazy wires, like it shoots and ladders all the way around your whole screen. And the other thing that I wanted to show you, if I can remember where it is, but I don't really use it all that often, is a jump. There it is. So jump is pretty nifty. Once I have all of my information kind of docked up here, I'll often go to utility, drop in a jump like that. And the way that this works is you select one of the points and you pull it to a location. And that retains the link, so when you double click it, it brings you back to the data input. You double click and you go back to the grid. Cool stuff, huh? So that'll help you begin to clean up your file. What I will do is give you some time to start exploring, setting these up so that you know how to do it. And I actually would like you to have that for part of this, because we're going to have two different strings of data going at the same time. So it would behoove you to get in and set up some links to each of these strings, because this is going to be one string. That one's irrelevant, but this is going to be one string going this way, and then we're going to have another one just below it. Okay?
Tonight?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it now for a couple minutes. Questions? All right. We'll pause here.